On this story. Joining me now live from London is Bulama Bukarti. He's an international human rights lawyer and security analyst. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. See, my first question to you, do you think Nigeria really wanted to be a part of this mission, or was it forced to cooperate with the US?
I don't think Nigeria wanted to be part of these airstrikes. You did project part of Nigerian government's statement on the airstrikes as well as the Trump administration's own, and you could see the misalignment in the two statements. Nigeria clearly in that statement is not, is very reluctant and doesn't want the way the Trump administration characterized the strike after the strikes. And I think, to say the least, the Nigerian government is not happy. I think it was held at gunpoint by the Trump administration to either agree or the Trump administration will go ahead without their approval. And I think they were forced to just allow the Trump administration to do what they did. What Nigeria will prefer would be building local capacity for the US government to help Nigeria with intelligence, with equipment, with fighter jets, with arms and ammunition, so that Nigeria would lead the fight, not the US intervening in the way it did.
Right, and I think also it shows that there's this lack of trust, especially when it comes to the US and Nigerian relationship, because if the US had trust in the government of Nigeria, it would have let the government deal with the terrorism problem, not take matter into its own hand. And, in the past, whenever a US has attacked a foreign country, that has not ended well for that country.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if the Trump US trusts any country in the world, but the lack of trust by the US is mutual. The Nigerian government doesn't also trust the US, especially after Trump's inflammatory comments over the past 2 months, characterizing the situation in Nigeria in fundamentally wrong way and misrepresenting the situation on the ground in a way that escalates tension on the ground and furthers division in Nigeria. The Nigerian government is not happy. The Trump administration, I don't think, trusts anyone. We see their relationship with Europe and even some of their closest allies. And you are right, the Nigerian government, their preference would have been for them to be allowed to deal with this situation. But let's face the reality, the truth. Successive Nigerian administrations have failed to tackle the insecurity and the criminal and terrorist groups wreaking havoc across Nigeria. Every government that has come over the past 1.5 decades will promise to bring security, restore security in Nigeria, and the situation only continues to escalate. So the Nigerian people are frustrated with the Nigerian government, and the Nigerian government itself recognizes that it needs help, but not the kind of help Trump offered in the beginning, because in the beginning, Trump was talking about unilateral military action. It was only after the Nigerian government engaged extensively diplomatically with him and the Nigerian people stood up and said, we will not accept unilateral military action, that he now worked with the Nigerian government in the way they did, and we saw those strikes. So the preference of the Nigerian government and the Nigerian people is for the West to support us with arms, with intelligence, with air logistic capacity, with rapid response mechanisms, so that we can deal with our problem by our own selves, rather than someone outside Nigeria intervening in the way Trump did.
Right, but here's the thing. There's no guarantee that with these airstrikes, the problem of terrorism will be rooted out from the country.
In fact, there is a guarantee that it will not be rooted out, because airstrikes, even if they succeed, can only temporarily take out some of the leadership of terrorist groups and degrade their logistic and operational capacities. But even that is temporary. And these airstrikes, even though Trump called them deadly since last night, there is no evidence that they succeeded in any part of Nigeria. There is still no evidence produced by the US government or by the Nigerian government that any terrorist camp was hit by the airstrikes last night.
Bulama, this is the exact point that I was trying to make. When there is evidence that the problem of terrorism will not be rooted out with these airstrikes, and now it seems that it might be an ongoing operation based on the statements that we are seeing come from the United States, then why did Nigeria allow the US to be used as a playground?
To be honest, like I said, I think the Nigerian government acted at gunpoint. They were forced by the Trump administration to accept what the Trump administration wanted. And I think the United States and Western allies of African countries need to show some humility. You cannot be the one to tell host countries what they need. The Nigerian government should be the one telling the US government what they want or what they need and the way they want the US government to help. But the point I was making was that even if this succeeded, it will not root out the problem. But right now, the only two pieces of evidence we have is that in both Sokoto and Kwara State, where there were blasts last night, they ended up hitting civilian locations. One of the airstrikes hit an onions farm, which was close to a primary healthcare center, and the other one in Kwara State hit the Eid prayer ground in the town and destroyed a hotel called Solid Worth Hotel. So it didn't succeed. It wasn't precise. There was no credible intelligence backing the US airstrikes in spite of Trump's bluffs. But even if they succeeded, this has to be part of a broader package, and it has to be led by the Nigerian government. The Trump administration cannot be the one to tell Nigeria what Nigeria needs or wants.
Fascinating insights. Bulama Bukarti, thanks very much for joining me here on TRT World. I really appreciate your taking out the time.
My pleasure.